Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another very special edition of a Relaxed Radio feature. And today we're going to be celebrating in advance, of course, something that's special, very special to the Baha'i community. Now, before I get further into it, hi, my name is Abid, and this is Relaxed Radio. You're locked onto a different kind of radio, a radio that's beyond frequencies, a radio that knows no bounds, and a radio that wants you to be heard. And today, we're going to make sure you get heard, you hear about everything you need to know, and so much more. Now, we have four special guests on our show today. But before we proceed any further, I just want to get into the whole topic of discussion for today. Now, every faith, every teaching, every religion, we all have our birthdays. We all have our special celebrations. When you think about Christians, it's Christmas. Buddhists, it's Vesak. Muslims, Muslims have quite a lot, just like the Baha'is as well. But when it comes to the Baha'i community, they have 11 holidays that they celebrate throughout the year. And quite recently, we're going to be celebrating the Twin Holidays. And to speak more on this, to share their experiences, to pretty much tell us about how the Baha'i community, their teachings, and the lifestyles have pretty much made everything for the better, we have four very special guests with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Siamak Bahar from Bangladesh. We have from the UK, Ms. Sonia. We have Naj Harris from the USA, and as well as from the Baha'i community, Philip Rowe. Hi, everybody. How is each and every one of you doing today?
Hey, really good, thanks.
I mean, it is definitely something we're all looking forward to, celebrating the Baha'i Twin community, the celebration, the holidays, so on and so forth. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we pretty much have these holidays in succession with one another. We have basically the celebration of one prophet, and then right afterwards, a celebration of another prophet. So, as you all know, Nargis Harris is no stranger to us. She's been on shows quite a number of times now, and we are actually going to get right into it. So, Nargis, if you could please indulge us on how and why this is an important day for the Baha'i community.
So it's a birthday, as you just said. A birthday is something that we really want to celebrate because that was the birth of the prophet. We celebrate it more gorgeously, and we try to remember what is the significance of the day when he was born, what really happened to the world at large in the globe. And so we have two holidays, one after another. 1817 was the birth of Baha'u'llah, and 1819 was birth of the Bab. And both of them in the period that the day comes like one after another. So it's going to be twin holidays. We call it twin, like two birthdays we celebrate. We honor them with prayers, remember their stories and the significance, as my other friends will share what really happened to the world when the day happened.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so Sonia, could you tell me please as to why now we do have two holidays that we're celebrating. We're celebrating two right after the other in succession. Can you tell me the differences between these two prophets, their teachings? And, as far as I'm concerned, back in the day, these birthdays used to be celebrated differently on different days. But then after the new lunar calendar and all of those things were taken into consideration, the Baha'i community thought it would be best to make sure that these two birthdays are celebrated together. So could you please tell me the differences between these two prophets and why they are so important?
Of course, I am delighted to do that. I think there's key differences in that the Bab, he was the gate, the forerunner. He opened the door to possibility and change and prepared the way for the coming of Baha'u'llah. Now, actually, Baha'u'llah followed the Bab in his time. So he was actually what was called a Babi in his youth. And it wasn't until he was imprisoned for those beliefs of his youth, which were quite radical at the time in terms of, their changes for sort of socialization of the world in the future that was to come. And Baha'u'llah was following the Bab, and he was actually imprisoned. And at that time, he had divine revelation, which basically consisted of a vision from God saying that it was time to bring around change in the world, and that he was going to be the person who the Bab had foretold. So the Bab had foretold that there would be someone after him to carry that mantle, carry that Olympic flame, that torch forward to bring humanity into the next stage of its spiritual education. And so really you could think of them as the same and different. They were two unique and individual prophets, manifestations of God, but they were twinned in that one was the gate to lead you into the garden of Baha'u'llah's revelation. And so I think probably you could never really separate them. And really their birthdays coming together is the divine plan. And that we celebrate them both as being absolutely critical to the birth and the start of the Baha'i cause.
It just goes to show that, no matter how different they might have been as individuals, in the end, their teaching was more or less the same, making sure everybody goes through in the right path. And I did catch something that you said, though, which I'm hoping to hear more explanation from Philip Rowe. You did mention, Sonia, that, there was a revelation from God or a vision from God.
Absolutely.
And most people would go on to say that, there would actually be quite a lot of criticism from people saying that, how could this have been? How did this happen? So on and so forth. Philip, would you mind explaining that bit to somebody who actually has no clue as to what exactly goes down in the Baha'i community?
Well, essentially, all the faith in the world that you have seen through history of mankind or humankind, that they have said that there's a promised day. That promised day is that it will bring peace and everything will be better. You see, and those are the manifestations of God that have brought the new message in order to establish a new peace. And essentially, what the Baba and Baha'u'llah have said and also have taught, and also they suffer all their life because of that. The Bab was martyred, and also Baha'u'llah was imprisoned for more than 40 years and also exiled. And they have said, and then they share the same message, that all faith come from the same source, the same divine source. They all come from God, from all independently how you could call God, they all come from the same source. So essentially, that they bring the same message, is to help humankind in order to progress, to have prosperity, to have peace. So the Baba and Baha'u'llah brought that new message for today, and they're calling every believer of all the faith of God to work together to achieve the unity of mankind, of humankind, because we all leaves of one branch and flowers of the same garden. So we are called in order to work for the unity of humankind. That's the call. That's always so important, to celebrate both birthdays. Interesting that they is one day after another, because of the Muslim calendar, that happens, even though there's separation of 3 days.
Well, that definitely is quite an interesting fact. And I find it more interesting about the fact that these dates actually change every year. It's not the same date, so on and so forth, not the same date every single year per se. And what I want to understand is, yes, even though we do look at the lunar calendar, even though we actually take attention to what exactly goes on in the Western calendar, I want to understand, is there a spiritual connection to the dates changing, or is it just in regards to the Western calendar? Dr. Siamak, I'm sure you could explain that a little bit more for the better.
Prophecies. I'm very sorry. The weather in Bangladesh is very bad.
I can imagine.
Kind of cyclone is there, so the internet was cut. In the prophecies in Islam, Muharram, it is a month of sorrow because Imam Hussein was martyred in that month. And then there is a prophecy in that religion that at the end of the day, when the happiness will come to the humanity because of the coming of two manifestations of God. So this month of sorrow will be changed into happiness. And we see that Bab and Baha'u'llah, they were born in the same month, first of Muharram and second of Muharram. So that prophecy in the religion of Islam was fulfilled. And because it was a lunar calendar, so we were following that for many, many years. And then the Universal House of Justice has decided to shift it into solar calendar. So there is a calculation, and anyhow, we celebrate these 2 days in different day, you know, it is in the
Different
month of
ways.
October or November because of that change. Yes.
Well, that's definitely interesting. There definitely is a spiritual connection to that as well. But you know what interests me the most is the fact that when it comes to these kind of holidays, there's actually no restriction for who you are or who you might be to simply join in on the celebrations. You could be Christian, you could be Muslim, you could be Jewish, you could be absolutely anything under God's blue sun. But it doesn't matter because the Baha'i community does not really give you any restriction. It does not really entitle you to a certain privilege. It's more or less how you treat everybody else around you, and more importantly, how you treat yourself. Sonia, if you don't mind telling me more about how do people in the first place find out that there is some sort of celebration of this place taking place, or how do you all even, well, to put it in simpler terms, advertise about it? How do you all let everybody know, hey, this is happening, you can be a part of it, go ahead and be a part of it? Sonia, please do enlighten us.
Absolutely. So very luckily, Baha'is are the second most widespread in the world. So we may be relatively small, under 10 million, but we are in almost every country in the entire world. So look on your local Facebook page, look up your local spiritual assembly in the city or town where you live. For example, in Tower Hamlets, today there was a celebration in Westfield Shopping Centre with a time for prayer and meditation and peace. And that's just one small example. Tomorrow evening, where I am here in Zone 5, Zone 6, sorry, in London, we are having a celebration to start proceedings with the children because they're young. And that will be storytelling and craft making and food sharing. And there are large national events. There's an event in Parliament in Westminster tonight with the Baha'is and many of the MPs. Really, if you want to get involved, as long as you're there with good intent to share fellowship, to look at how to engage across faith boundaries, across ages, across races, religions, and to come together to think about how to move the world forward positively, then you are incredibly welcome at any of the Baha'i events across the world.
No, that's absolutely great because just like Relax Radio, the Baha'i community has no bounds. You know, we are beyond frequencies, and just like that, the community is beyond religion, so on and so forth. What does interest me is the fact that, you know, you said you're going to be starting off proceedings with the children, making sure the children start off with the story tales and as well as craft making. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of more fun activities that take place. So what I do want to know is how young or how early on in life do you have to be, or is it required to be for you to start understanding the values and teachings of the Baha'i community?
I would say that you can never start too young. I'm the mother of a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And my husband, who was brought up in a Christian family, and myself, who's brought up in a Baha'i family, we both feel that it is absolutely fundamental that your children are instilled with virtues and values at the youngest age possible. And so if we're here to mirror all the positive attributes of God, be that kindliness, generosity, trustworthiness, justice, whatever of the virtues you can think of, then I can honestly think of no better thing for you to gift your children than those virtues in life. And whether that's through storytelling, whether that's through sharing with, you know, perhaps cakes or crafts with a neighbor, whatever you can do, whether it's doing a service project in your street. And many of our young people now are heavily engaged in service projects, be that on neighborhoods, on streets, or be that in much larger sort of university campuses and things like that. What can we actively do to make the world a better place in real, tangible ways to move it positively forward? And I definitely don't think you can start too young in that at all.
You can never be too young. That's actually
No.
wise words. I mean, I'm sure you are even getting your own children into the Baha'i teachings, the Baha'i faith, the community, getting them to make friends within people of their own age, so on and so forth. That's great news. But I would like to understand from Philip Bro, how exactly does the Baha'i community and its teachings affect your personal life? Now, I'm sure you've somebody who's been within the community from a very young age, from a really early age, and you've even instilled all of the teachings when it comes to your professional life as well. But do expound more on how exactly these teachings have affected your personal life.
Well, essentially, the three very actors in life, we can call it. One is an individual, the individual, how you deal with the teachings or principles of any faith, actually. So then if you believe in certain teachings and principles, then you should try to apply those principles in your life. In a case of you are involved in a community, then that relation with the community also affects you, you see, and also you have an influence on the rest of the people that are around in the community. Then also you are related with institutions, you see, or different kind of institutions. So also if the institutions are sensible to the changes, also you could reflect that capacity and also that those changes that you are doing in your life, but also you have an influence. Especially if you participate also in those institutions. You are working, maybe you are studying, maybe you have different roles in your life that maybe you will have an influence on that. So essentially all faith brings some principles, moral principles, ethical principles, spiritual principles. But the difference between the actual principles or ways of doing things in the world right now is that they don't consider spiritual principles as a source of knowledge. So right now, what all the faiths have said is that we have to be based also in spiritual principles, not only scientific or material principles or social principles, but also spiritual. And the spiritual principles are the ones that really shape your life in a way that protects you and also protects your community and also the institutions, and will bring good for life. So applying, for example, in the case of the Baha'i faith that teaches the unity of mankind, you have to eliminate all kind of prejudices, all kind of nationalism, and all kind of discrimination for men and women. Men and women have the equal rights and opportunities. They should have the same rights, you see. And
True.
so those are the things that actually it's not something that you achieve in just one day. That's why it's so important to learn it from very, very early ages in your life, because it's not something that you will do just now, and it takes all your life, and suddenly you pass away, and hopefully you have achieved some good qualities.
Yeah.
But as Baha'i, sorry.
No, please do go on. I'm so sorry for
No,
interrupting.
all manifestations of God, all prophets of God have told us, through the history of religion, is that we are a spiritual being. So if you believe that you are a spiritual being, then you have eternal life. And essentially, you are preparing in this world for the future lives you're going to have. So, and which are your hands or eyes or legs or way of walking is the spiritual qualities that you will use in the next spiritual lives. So those are the things that we have to prepare ourselves, not only here in this world material in order to survive here, but also the spiritual qualities that it will make you survive and advance and progress in the next lives.
I mean, that's something we should all keep in mind. It's not about how you live your life, it's all about the teachings you leave behind for generations to come in front of you. And I think that's beautiful. And even so, someone who hasn't really been a part of the Baha'i community for a long time, to be honest, I became a part of the Baha'i community recently when I was part of these shows, and I got to understand more and more about how these communities work. But what I did understand is for the Baha'is, Baha'u'llah's birth actually represents hope and joy. And his message is actually one where he waits for the world, where humankind to recognize that they're all one. And he actually brought the promise of peace. But what I'd like to understand from Najis, actually, because you've been unusually quiet for the rest of the interview, I just want to understand what kind of plans do the Baha'i community have in order to bring about world peace? Now, world peace is something that is needed now more than ever, especially in the world that we're in right now, everything we're going through, all these wars and just chaos. I'm sure the world needs an understanding or a community like Baha'is to bring about world peace. So do tell me what kind of plans, what kind of teachings are instilled to children, to adults of many walks of life, and how exactly are they making sure that we guarantee or actually work towards world peace?
Certainly. Thank you. My pleasure. So while I was listening, the thing that came to my mind and I would like to share, when the sun comes up in early morning, the sun come up, you don't have to say, or the sun doesn't have to say, hey, I'm up. It's shining, it's bright, as temperature and a brilliancy. All these are the proof of the sun came up. Now, someone who would like to recognize the sun will benefit from the sun ray and will enjoy the source, right? Similarly, when the divine teachers come to this world and they proclaim, their birth itself brings a change to the globe. Their proclamation brings a change to the globe. When Bab and Baha'u'llah, Bab is a title, means gate, as we say, the forerunner of the Baha'i faith. And Baha'u'llah means the glory of God. These are titles. So we use the title Bab and Baha'u'llah, twin manifestation. When they came to this world with the divine teachings, it's just like bringing a new energy to this whole globe, not just for the Baha'is, but the whole globe, entire globe. Look at the interesting thing. We are talking about unity and peace and diversity. What's happening? Last 3 years, something strange happened in the name of COVID or virus, pandemic, whatever name you give. We started using Zoom. We started falling into that scientific, invention of the Zoom and technology took benefit.
Yeah.
And the wall is shrinking down. People are not talking about race. People are now talking about peace. Usually, those days back in the history, there were my, me, and now we are talking the word we. A lot of diversity, either in the name of refugee to some countries or immigration to some countries. Like in America, we have diversity in the name of immigrant, refugees, whatever. Other countries also, because the marriage, all the interrace has become so merged that people want to feel at home in a globe, not just a small country. And that is because the power, new power released with the coming of Bab and Baha'u'llah to this world, not just for the Baha'is, for the entire globe. Another thing I would like to just for information of everybody,
Of
even
course.
though Baha'is, we do teach Baha'i faith, which means whenever you talk about Baha'i faith religion, it is the foundation of all religion is one. So all religion structures are involved. And if anybody would like to join Baha'i faith, more than welcome anytime. Children are given knowledge of all religion. That's the Baha'i faith. And then at the age 15 is a confirmation. I think that was your question, when you get the confirmation as commitment to be a Baha'i and run your life as a Baha'i and be committed to that. Baha'u'llah's teaching is the age 15, the age of maturity. The way we are connected in the whole globe is really very, very interesting. Even though there is no priest in the Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah said we do not need priesthood because the humanity has reached to maturity level where we can do independent investigation of truth. You just give a knowledge to somebody, they independently investigate, and the people, when we believe things from our own core heart, we take responsibility. That's what the main thing attracted me. In fact, when I wanted to be committed myself to Baha'i, that really attracted me. I want to be responsible for what I'm doing. I want to know what I'm doing, and I want to know the consequence of it. So that was interesting. Another thing is the diversity. It's so easy to say the world is one country and mankind is citizen, but think for 1 minute. As human beings, we are so much attached when we grew up with our own cultural pattern of life, food, clothing, culture, music. It takes a while to understand and acclimate and take somebody else's music, for example, entertainment, for example, to say that's good. Just an example. In certain culture, prayer is with clapping hands, movement of body. That's the prayer. Certain culture is quiet. You don't say any music. So both this culture coming together and saying, yes, I value your sentiments and your belief, and let's be together. It's not going to be easy. So those are the steps. When we say we are Baha'i, we are doing the junior youth program, we are talking about, we are teaching children. This is what we are trying to tell them, that everybody's core belief comes from their pattern of understanding. Value is same. Foundation of all religion is same. Value is same. How we do it, because of the climatic reason, we come from different part of the world. We look different. We speak different. We eat different food. However, our core thing is one human family. So that's very interesting.
Definitely very interesting indeed. I mean, okay, we're just half an hour into our show, our special segment for today, and we've already understood so much about why these two holidays are very important. Once again, if you're just joining in, welcome to Relax Radio. My name is Abid. We're with our special guest today, Dr. Siamak. We have Sonia, Philip, and as well as Najis from the Baha'i community, making sure we bring the world to you. Now, of course, Najis just spoke about how when it comes to unity and diversity, she was actually quite spot on. She hit the nail right on the head. With COVID, with everything that's been taking place in the past few years, the world has come together in a precedent like never before. We're seeing the likes of technology being used to bring one person from another end of the globe to another person to another end of the globe together right here on one screen, just like you are with us right now. So before we talk more about all of this, I want to remind you that you can go ahead and check us out on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on all platforms of social media. We're there and we got you covered. But most importantly, you better make sure you get your phones and download the app right now. We're going to take a small break. Make sure you stay tuned in. Don't you dare go anywhere. You are right now with Relax Radio. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Of course, we got to some love to our sponsors for making the show possible. Relax in on board the show, making sure you get your dream accommodation and everything else you need right here at the click of a button. But we're going to get right into the show. Of course, we're in some very deep conversation with very special guests from the Baha'i community, and they are kind enough to grace us with their presence here today on a very special show right here on Relax Radio. If you're just joining us, welcome back. My name is Abid. We have our special guest for today. We have Siamak, Sonia, Philip, and as well as Nargis. And we left things off with Nargis pretty much telling us how the world has actually gotten more united than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. In the course of 3 years, we have gotten so much more closer to one another with, of course, the help of technology and so much more, but of course, with the willpower of man and womankind. So we're going to get right into more conversation with our special guest once again. We have each and every one of you here today gracing us with your presence, but I'd like to start things off with Dr. Siamak. Now, Dr. Siamak, you have to let me know and tell me. Now, when it comes to Bangladesh, of course, when it comes to different countries, each country, in fact, has their own ways of instilling the teachings of the Baha'i community. But do tell me, when it comes to Bangladesh, what kind of celebrations are we looking forward to when it comes to the Twin Holidays right around the corner?
To celebrate this 2 million people are living in this city, and it is so difficult to go from one place to another because of traffic. So we are having two celebrations, one in our community, small community in our sector, and then one we are having tomorrow, central gathering. And we are inviting all the people, those friends, relatives, colleagues, neighbors to our gathering, because this is a happy celebration for all of us. And my daughter was telling me for tomorrow she has invited 17 friends of her to our central gathering, and all of them are very happy to come, because the aim is unity. But one of the beauty of the Baha'i faith is this, that it doesn't categorize people, that Baha'is and non-Baha'is. We don't have this kind of words, believer and non-believer. We don't have that concept. We believe that the earth is but one country and mankind is citizen. So whomever we meet and we make friendship, we carry our love and give them this love of God to all of them. So, and we love humanity, as Narges was telling, we don't look at the people because of their color or religion or nationality or language. We look at them because they are the creation of God, and they have to be loved. So not only we give love to them, but also we try to change our society by, for example, helping our neighbors or even poor people. We look at the in our community, we look at the people who are in need of something, and we try to help them. Even Baha'is, they establish a kind of small fund for such things. For example, sponsoring youths who are not able to do education or anything. We support them. So these are the things that at the moment Baha'i community is doing. And of course, uh, on the top of it is the aim is to be united and to love humanity.
I mean, that's definitely a great way to go about things. It's the understanding that when the end, we're all about making sure we all come
Yeah,
together as one, and
yeah.
that's what we're
And
doing. We're doing.
another thing, dear,
Yes, of course.
sorry, I
No, of course,
interrupted.
please.
We Baha'is, we are inviting people of the world, to come and join with us to change the world. For the children, we have children classes, moral classes. For junior youths, we are having junior youth programs with 14, 15 books, and all these books are to to make them good human being. And then for adults, we are having study circles, and all these are being done with the people of the world, not only among ourselves, but with the people of the world, so that we slowly we come to a position to remove all these sufferings like war and disunity and hatred and prejudices which is existing in the world, and the pain of war we are now seeing. Even though, for example, there is war between two countries of Russia and Ukraine, but the suffering has come even to this country and everywhere, with the increase of expenditures and everything because of lack of food and everything. So we Baha'is, we are trying to educate humanity to come to a to unity and to love.
I mean, that's definitely something we should all take into account. The fact that when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine, we're all feeling it. It doesn't matter if you're in Ukraine, doesn't matter if you're in Russia, you're going to feel it no matter where you are in the world. And that's the worst part about it, with sanctions being imposed, food shortages, fuel shortages, price hikes, inflations. Violence is pretty much like a ripple effect. You put a little bit and everything's going to spread. And I think the same thing can be said for the betterment of humankind when it comes to good. Because if we do good, that good is going to spread out throughout the world. And even though it might take a little bit more time than violence does, I'm sure good makes a more lasting effect on the world. And I take that personally from the prophets who actually instilled the Baha'i teachings on us, because these twin holidays actually give a joyful and celebratory season. I get that. And it's basically where the Baha'i community comes together to commemorate the two prophets of God. But what I'd like to talk to Mr. Philip about basically is when it comes to these teachings, I mean, it does say it's all about joyfulness, it's all about the celebration, that happiness, so on and so forth. But to my understanding, these prophets, one of these prophets, were actually imprisoned for 40 years. And he is somebody who could have a lot of hate within himself. He's somebody who could have a lot of prejudice towards humanity as a whole. But he's somebody who took his life teachings and pretty much made a lesson that is the betterment for everybody else. So trying to come to that understanding, Philip, could you tell me how somebody could be exactly like that? How somebody could pretty much understand and take those understandings, take those teachings, and become not just a better person for himself, but a better person for humanity?
You see, because that's something that we have to all try to understand why they suffer so much, And Baha'u'llah wrote in one of his books, he called the Book of Certitude, you see all these manifestations of God, or prophet of God, or teachers of God, it's not for free. I mean, they have taught us, wonderful teachings. And then, and at the time they arrived and they shared that message with the people, they all suffer. You see, it's not only, you see Jesus Christ that also suffer, and Muhammad also, was persecuted, he had to run away, and Buddha had to go out of the palace and then never come back, and so and Abraham, he was asked to kill his son, etc. So those is the lives, and then the suffering of all the manifestations of God have been very terrible. You see, the same happened with the Bab and Baha'u'llah, and give us like a model, an example of life, and that also nothing good will be achieved unless you sacrifice or you do something that is uh, above your ego, above your own desires or selfish desires. So it has to be something that really change your life in order to make a better to betterment of the world. And so essentially, their examples are done like that. For example, the Baba was martyred. He was a young man of 31 years old, and he was unjustly killed
Imprisoned.
in
Yeah.
prison, and also so, and also the Bab was 40 years, and Baha'u'llah, sorry, Baha'u'llah 40 years in prison, you see, and never had the opportunity to do what he wanted to do. Yes, he was confined, and then he has to be exiled, and only at the last years of his life he was out of the prison, you see, um, but he was old in that sense, it was last days of his life. And then, for example, we have fasting, and we have prayers that remind us it's all this suffering. So in order to really, make a change in the world, we have to change, we have to do things in a different way, and sometimes it's not easy. We have to work together. We have to look for friendship. We have to open our hearts to people that probably we don't know. We have to, or like foreigners that maybe we feel unsafe, or if we are in a place that is not comfortable, or is a different economic condition. And there are many sacrifices that you do in a certain, you are maybe exposed, and you have the possibility or the opportunity to really do an exercise of change, you see. And so then that's the thing, is that because if we just stay in a place that we all are comfortable, then it looks like everything is easy. But if you come out of that, they call it comfortable area, then you start feeling all those changes. And in terms of the teachings of what we need for the world right now, is eliminate all kind of prejudices, all kind of discrimination. So when you face the interaction with somebody else, then you have to apply those principles, and those are the things that we have to change, and those are the things that maybe try to apply the teachings of that you have seen across the history of religion. But now we are forced to or because of this integration of the world. So now we are not just in an island, or we are not just in a part of India. I'm here in South America, and we are all well, seeing that we are interacting between each other. We thought we were out of the end of the world, but now we have people from all over the world, and then you have to learn how to deal with it, all the friends. So those are the sacrifices, but you cannot call it sacrifices. Those are the things that actions that we have to do in order to improve our lives, to have prosperity, have peace. If we don't do it, looks like that we're going to suffer more.
Well, that's quite plainly put, which I don't think we're going to go there. Like you said, it does take time to build towards something good. Good things don't come easy, and what comes easy is not good. So I'm pretty sure that the instillings of the Baha'i community is actually taking us for the better. I mean, just like you said, Philip, it's bringing us all together in an unprecedented way, in a manner that's never been seen before. And it's the new age, it's a digital age, and it's now easier than ever before to spread the message. But what I'd like to understand more about is how these Baha'i teachings, how the Baha'i community actually helps when it comes to our professional lives, our workplaces, or our workforces. And I'm sure Sonia would be able to expound more on that as she's somebody who's actually worked with the likes of Pepsi, so on and so forth. So do tell us, Sonia, when it comes to things like the Baha'i community, the teachings they instill, the celebrations they have, do brands actually get to hop on board and be a part of the bandwagon as much as we would like them to? Or do they take a step back, on do they just observe and pretty much put their name in when they have to?
So it's a really interesting question, because obviously I work in a very commercial setting, like you say, with Pepsi, Dua Lipa, Sean Paul, Adidas, all these names that are household names that many know and some love.
Wow.
And I think for me, how I bring the teachings that are part of my everyday, I think being a Baha'i is it's a way of life. I fail all the time, you know. If I get frustrated with my work or my children or anything, every day I you know, you have to bring yourself to account. What can I do better? And in my professional life, that can look at how do I encourage my clients to sustainability? How can I encourage them to work more with women? Or you know, one of the big problems in the film industry in the past has been working with people of diverse backgrounds. It's been a very small male dominated industry. So I, you know, as was mentioned earlier in the broadcast, this two wings of a bird, this equality of men and women, I can really bring those principles actively into who I employ. You know, I get to choose, working alongside the partners of, you know, maybe it's Sean Paul and he's doing his next pop video. And we look at, is it a male director? Is it a female director? Who is the person, you know, doing the makeup? Is that stereotypically a woman, or do we want to give a young man an opportunity? You know, I really, on a very daily basis, I have the chance to bring in the principles of the faith. Do I bring in sustainability with the food I have brought on set, with how far people travel? I mean, there really are endless ways. And then obviously there can be conflict always in life. We have to navigate different conflicts, and there can be conflict of artistic ideas. I've had artists not want to be on set. How do I use my skills of compassion and honesty, you know, to bring that artist back to the front of camera and to be their best self and to share, you know, the sort of the key things of their artistry in hopefully a positive manner. I'm selective about the clients I work with. There are some clients that maybe don't spiritually align with me, but I think there's a lot of brands now, and I'm currently, for example, looking at an Adidas job, and one of their key elements just now is sustainability. So as a Baha'i and thinking about the world and our environment, I think to myself, what can I do to work with that? How can I promote that? How can I encourage the rest of the crew to take that on board, regardless of what religion and whether they have a faith or belief or not? How can I encourage them to never use plastic bottles on set, to share cars, to not travel if not necessary, if it's an international job? I mean, there are endless ways, I think, that I can bring in my personal beliefs into my day-to-day. My everyday, from the breakfast on set right through to the most difficult and complicated negotiations with international stars. You know, that it's just part of my everyday.
I mean, that's quite envious to me to know. I mean, you work with the likes of Dua Lipa, Sean Paul, so on and so forth. But that brings us to the main topic as to how celebrities actually play a huge role when it comes to spreading the message. I mean, we all have our own means of getting our word out to our friends. We all have our own social media profiles. We have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, so on and so forth. But celebrities conquer or command quite a lot of these platforms to an enormous following, and each and every one of them have their own ways of spreading the message. But the best part about that is how they get the message across. And like you even mentioned just now, Sonia, how you use these teachings to persuade them to get on stage when they don't want to, or how we cannot use plastic bottles. It goes to show that the Baha'i community is not just about teaching a human being to be good. It's about teaching a human being to be better for the world. I mean, the fact that you mentioned let's not use plastic bottles is not something most religions would even talk about. if I'm being honest. I mean, they don't care. They're all about making sure, hey, our religion is the right path, follow our path, and that's the only path they're going to need. But I haven't experienced that even once so far with members of the Baha'i community. It's all about doing good for themselves and one another. What do you think?
Is that for me again? Yeah. I mean, I think it's really true. I think you've got to be open to what you can do for other people. If I walk onto set, and I'm very lucky that I'm often, even as a woman, the boss on set, you know, you're in a huge position of privilege and power. If I walk on and all I want to do is stamp all over people and exert my negative influence on, say, the 150 people that are on set, then the ripple effects, remember we were talking about that earlier, the ripple effects that go
Yes.
one negative person to one person, then that hits 3 people and then 10, and suddenly those negative effects are spiraled. Well, like with the inspiration that I've gained from becoming and being a Baha'i, I want those ripple effects of those 150 people I meet on that day on set to go to their families. They take that home at night. They take home a joyful, hardworking, positive experience where they've learned something, and be that you have the capacity to reuse water cans, or be that something much larger in that we've done a service project and all of the clothing. I remember once I did a cancer research shoot in South Africa, and I had the privilege of being able to take the clothing that we had for the 250 or so actors to a township. You know, I mean, what a joy to be able to know that you are bringing shoes, trainers, t-shirts, trousers, everything to people who are genuinely in need. You know, there's just, yeah, it's
It's
amazing. I think
beautiful.
if you each look at your own life and whatever you do. Now, I work in one industry, but be you a teacher, if you're a bin man, I mean, I look at my bin men every week. And if I've forgotten to take my bin out, because I've got 2 children sometimes on my own, because my husband leaves early for work, and I've got one in my arm and I'm trying to bring it to the street, the amazing guys that come round, you know, they help me and they do it for us. Or I have 2 old ladies either side of me and they'll go and get theirs. I mean, there are so many small acts of service that people can do. And these acts of service, my dad often says, it's about living the spiritual life, but with practical feet. What do your practical feet look like? What can you offer on a daily basis? Be that really small or be that something huge, like the great show that you're doing and sharing all this information. What can you do to really take that tiny little step forward, that tiny little step forward? Because by the time we have 7 billion, when you think of the people on the planet, regardless of faith or no faith, 7 billion tiny steps forward. I mean, we really do have the power to completely transgress the wars that we see on our media and our radio, on TV all the time. We have the power in our individual lives to make positive change, but it takes the sacrifice. I mean, it does. You know, it's a sacrifice of a parent for a child. It's a sacrifice of one best friend for another, but you have to apply that to strangers.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, when it actually does take sacrifice to make something good. And in time to come, I'm sure there's a lot of good things that will take place. Because like we just mentioned throughout the show, the ripple effect is definitely going to spread all throughout the globe. And there's definitely a lot of good that's going to come about this. But Nargis, I want to ask you, when it comes to equal opportunities, equal rights, now we do see in this current day and age quite a lot of discrimination against the sexes, against the races, so on and so forth. And it just drives someone mad to see themselves not being given the recognition, especially that they deserve. So when it comes to the Baha'i community, what does the Baha'i community do to make sure it eliminates this? Or what does the Baha'i community do in order to make sure it promotes equal rights for each and every person?
You just touched the hot button. Especially,
That's what it's all about.
yeah, right now, yeah, well, thanks to Relax Radio. Right now, the whole world, probably from year before, is keeping an eye on America about the racial prejudice and those kind of things. So being in
True.
America, I can tell you, as
True.
Baha'is, what we did, we took opportunity to have seminars and workshops and do not only talking, but as you heard my other friends are saying about the service. The word we are using is service. If you really love yourself and love one another, is the service is the way to bring that love into action. During the service, there's a sacrifice. There is also a joy of accomplishment, you know. And so we are trying to bring in the joy in people's heart, and we are being successful. And there's a lot going on over here, but a lot good things going here. And the news sometime, most of the time, doesn't catch the good one. Sorry about
Well, that's the
because
media.
yeah, because the probably the news doesn't sell. But anyway, so the good news is we are having a lot of good progress in community level, young people level. People do not want to use the word which country you're from. They not want to use that word to that degree. Look at the progress we have been. When you see
Yeah,
somebody's, you don't say which country you come from. You simply recognize they are one of you and simply talk. If there's have accented English, you just say excuse me and try to
understand.
understand the communication. Because in America, we have people from very, very diverse background, and some of them just newly coming in and don't know many things of many things. And so the Baha'is have taken initiative of having a small groups discussion, bringing into our practically. And we have our supreme body, we call it Universal House of Justice, is head office is right now is called in Israel. But every country has a national spiritual assembly, and then every locality has a local spiritual assembly. So we are connected from grassroots. Right now, what's going on in London, I can say what's going on. Anybody from London want to know what's happening in Sri Lanka? If they want to tap into the resources, they will know. So much we are very much connected, very closely connected. So whatever happens in one part of the world, Baha'is immediately start making plans and working together. So virtue training is incredibly successful going on through storytelling, practical example, give and take. And the best part of the whole thing, when, as I said previously, the energy, new energy release in the world, bringing us maturity level to say we are all one, it really happened because whenever you sit with somebody, you see and you talk, you feel the spirit of either negative or positive, but you feel the spirit. People are beginning to respond, and these divine attributes are being recognized. It's not being unrecognized, being recognized, like value and service and all. Love is being inculcated. So in America, for everything you will see, if you turn on the Baha'i House of Worship program, like we will have that, it's in Wilmette, Illinois, Wilmette. You'll see the diverse group of people from Japan to to India, to any part or different kind of accent, but they're all in a choir. They're singing song. What we did is we are taking advantage of everybody's language, tradition, values to one, sync it one. Like when you play a music, the note are different, but different notes come together, makes a beautiful music. So that's how we are perceiving the racial unity. And unity cannot be established without justice, equity. So it goes hand in hand. So needless to say,
Definitely.
that's also in the project, in the program.
Well, that's definitely something I think we should all keep in mind. It's all about having the justice. It's all about having those equal rights. It's all about making sure we all come together as one, just like we are here today on Relax Radio. And with that said, though, we've actually come to the end of our show, making sure we understand why we will be celebrating the Twin Holidays coming forward. But before we wrap things up, I'd like to thank our special guests here today for making sure they join us with the show from all parts of the globe. We actually have Dr. Siamak from Bangladesh. Thank you so much. We have Philip Rowe all the way from South Africa. Thank you for being with us here today. We have Sonia from the UK. It's a pleasure having you on board the show. And of course, Najis all the way from the USA. Before we go, I'd like each and every one of you to share a few words about why someone should join the Baha'i community ASAP, like immediately. Like you don't have to wait any longer. Najis, I'd like to start off with you. Why should someone be a part of the Baha'i community? Go ahead.
So again, the best part of the Baha'i teaching is we do not go and proselytize our faith. We just share the message. And with that comes a unique thing called independent investigation of truth. So we leave things open to individual to do the investigation and be committed to, if they want to believe. The core belief is that progressive revelation comes from God. Foundation of all basic divine teaching, faith, and religion is one. God is one. Mankind is one. And if this core principle somebody believes and investigate that Baha'u'llah is a divine messenger of this day and age, they can be Baha'i, part of the core activity. But needless, whether a person wants to be Baha'i enrolled or wants to join Baha'is for the activity and support, welcome.
Couldn't have said any better. It's all about progress. Mr. Philip, if you mind telling us a bit about why someone should join the Baha'i community immediately, do share with us.
Is to join the message of God, that has been taught across history of humankind. So now is a phase of joining all believers of all faiths in one big effort, that unity of mankind. The Baha'i teachings just give us which way to go in order to achieve that. So everybody can join. Doesn't matter if they're Baha'is or not, but we have to work together. That's the main message. You see, and the house of worships are the way. I'm from South America, just in case. I would like to go to Africa, but we are South America, and we have a house of worship in Santiago.
South America, lovely. Well, that's great news. I'm really sorry about that confusion there, but of course, it's a pleasure having you on board the show, sir. Of course, we'd like to hear from you as well, Dr. Siamak. What do you think as to why someone should join the Baha'i community immediately and not expound on that anymore?
You see, Baha'i faith, it is a faith, and it is a faith that calls not only on religious people, but even there are millions and millions of people who have become atheists because of not believing in many things which were in the religion. And for the first time, Baha'u'llah and the Bab, they have brought all the explanation about the things which now a new generation of humanity they cannot accept. For example, the topic of heaven and hell, or many other things, or for example, in the religious war, accepting that someone will go and fight with other people, that we call it crusade, you see. So for the first time, there is a faith calling for love and unity. There is no crusade, there is no jihad in Arabic world.
Yeah.
And also nearness to God is heaven, and farness from God is hell. And there are many other explanations that new generation of humanity who are away from religion, after reading the Baha'i faith, they will see it is a logical thing, logical issues that are being presented in Baha'i faith. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for those wise words. Of course, we do have Sonia who's spoken quite a lot today, but I'm sure she'd have one last thing to add as to why you should be a part of the Baha'i community immediately.
I think if you join the Baha'i faith immediately, you will be given practical tools to help support your spiritual journey. That will be your own unique spiritual journey, but you will have the shoulders of giants, the rest of the Baha'i community and the friends of the Baha'is to help support you on your journey. So I think if you're looking for support on your own personal spiritual journey, then join the Baha'i community. We're here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here from very special guests of the Baha'i community, exclusively on Relaks Radio. Our special guest, once again, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. And we really do hope to hear from each and every one of you soon. Maybe perhaps even meet together in one place, just like the Baha'i community is all about. Once again, thank you very much. And I hope to see you all very, very soon. But with that said, we've come to the end of our show for
Thank you very
today.
much.
Of course, thank you very much to everybody else who's joined in. Thank you so much to everyone who was a part of Relax Radio. And don't forget to make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, be a part of everything that we have in store for you, because in the foreseeable future, we have quite a lot in store for you. My name is Abid, and this is Relax Radio, and we'll see you soon.